Judgment of others is truly just a judgment of ourselves. Heather Chauvin. Hey guys. I did not just quote myself. I did that to see if you were paying attention, because that's probably the tackiest thing someone can ever do. So I'm a huge fan of taking emotional responsibility for who you want to be. And this is also the car ride edition, hands-free, pulling back the layers today, just talking about our fear of judgment. This is a true fear that a lot of us have. And lately I've been asked by some of my clients, Heather, how do you put yourself out there so fearlessly? How do you be yourself? Aren't you afraid that other people are judging you? Aren't you afraid, do you ever get backlash? Do you ever get emails? How did you get over that fear of being judged? So here's my answer. For many years, I judged myself. I still do. I judge the way I look. I judge the way I talk. I judge every aspect of me. But for years, I judged myself so harshly that I hid, and I was terrified. And what I noticed was I was angry, and it turned into anger and resentment. But really, I was projecting that out into the world. And I would see that every time I was judging someone, it was a projection of my own perception of myself. Example, I would see someone who was lean and quote unquote pretty, and I would judge her based on the way she looked. But if I turned that back on myself, what I realized was that's how I wanted to look and feel in my life. When I would see happy people, I was judging them. Oh, must be nice. But really it was a projection of my own misery. I would see people with money and think, oh, must be nice. You were handed this, or not realizing, the effort and dedication that somebody has put into their financial situation. Every aspect of who I wanted to become, I was judging that in others. So when I became more consciously aware of this, and if you guys are wondering, how can you turn this around? I talk about her all the time, but you need to check out Byron Katie. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this to you. Byron Katie, Bryan, Loving What Is. Every thought that we have, every belief that we have about ourselves and others is a projection of our mind. It's not the truth. The truth is the story that we put behind it. That is where the attachment is. And so when you do this work over and over and over again, what happens is you gain emotional freedom. So if you can be in a situation with somebody that you used to judge. So the old version of myself was I was very judgy of people with money because I believed they had something that I didn't have. Being on the other side of that, I now look at what I was judging them for was the perceived freedom and ease that I thought they had in their life just because they had money. But as some of you might know, that just because you have money does not mean your life, you have a sense of freedom and ease in your life. So the more I did the work on myself, the more I realized that I'm constantly just projecting, and it wasn't the money that I was after anyways. So when I started to create freedom and ease in my own life, I could be with people with money. And when I could be with people with money, I saw that we all have our shit. And I could see and accept these people for who they really were. Another perception of judgment, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of whatever. It was within myself where I would see people taking courageous action and judging my own self for my inability to be courageous. So example, writing my book. There's a lot of fear in writing a book because the fear of judgment comes up big time. Being judged for your words, being judged for your story, being seen on a bigger platform. You're going to go out there and people are going to have every belief and every thought and every story that they want to perceive about you. It was also another reason why this year I decided to do a podcast a day, because my fear was, as soon as I hit publish, someone's going to judge me. And now that I'm doing it every day, I don't have the time to think and stew if my words were perfect. And as I'm recording this in this exact moment, I'm literally judging myself and thinking this is not good enough. So when people ask me, how do you get over the fear of judgment? You don't get over anything. You never get over fear. You co-create with it. And it doesn't matter what industry you are in. It doesn't matter if you are in an industry or not. In your everyday life, if you walk around in the world thinking that everybody is judging you, you have to turn the mirror back on yourself and ask yourself, where in my life am I judging me? Is it true? And is it true that that person is, thinking, oh, must be nice? Like, I don't know. I'm not in that person's mind. That person might actually be thinking, wow, this woman inspires me. There's always going to be the light and the dark with every thought. Our mental bias is to have a negative association. So your default in your brain is to be negative. But if you are a conscious person and you take emotional responsibility for your life, you know that you are in control of how you want to feel. When you catch yourself in a judgment, you can turn it around. So like I said, when I used to see successful people, I would judge them because I wanted to be them. And I was just in a very negative state of mind. But now that where I am in my life is I look at these women and maybe I don't have what they have, but they inspire me. So if there's someone, a few steps ahead of me, I'm like, I want to be like her. That inspires me, where before I was coming from a place of judgment. So you have to do the inner work yourself. You have to ask yourself, what is it within me that I'm judging? Because I was judging myself, thinking I wasn't good enough. And you have to go through the fear. You have to look at it head on. You have to say, why are you here? What are you here to teach me about myself? Why am I so triggered by this other person? So when I have these conversations with people, what I notice, and I'm just going to be really frank and honest with you, every time I'm up-leveling in my life, I notice that other fears come out. And it is very vulnerable because I work with people in very vulnerable situations and they speak their truth to me. And I know that I trigger some people just by how I show up, because somebody might have an unconscious expectation of me. They wanted me to text them on a certain day and I didn't text them on that day. Therefore, they're judging me. Oh, Heather's not here for me. Heather's not enough. Heather's this, Heather's that. And sometimes when people are going through uncomfortable things, they want me to be somebody that I am not to them. And I'll tell you a really sacred story. One time I hired a coach, and I've hired lots of coaches, but one of the coaches that I had really triggered me all the time. But yet I would say she was one of the most transformational coaches I ever had. This woman, I looked at her, I looked up to her, she inspired me. I wanted to get to where she was at that level, but I didn't realize that I needed to become somebody that I've never become in my entire life, energetically, emotionally. And so when this woman, every time we'd have a conversation, she would challenge me to my core. And I remember she wasn't very motherly. She wasn't very soft. And I was always extremely intimidated by that. And we got on the phone one time and she said to me, who are you expecting me to be? She's like, I care about your success. I care about your well-being. But I can't be there for you all the time. You have everything you need. What are you expecting from me? Because I was freaking out all the time and, I would send her emails and she wouldn't get back to me right away. And she goes, you know, Heather, that I believe in you. I said, but who do you want me to be? And do you want to know what my answer was? The first words out of my mouth were, I want you to be my mother. And I didn't realize that unconsciously, I wanted this woman to mother me because that was a wound that I needed to heal. So I hired her to help me with my business. But on an unconscious level, I really wanted this. I seen this woman as a mother figure to me. Nor did I ever sign a contract with her to say, now you are my mother. And I see this with my clients as well. I set very clear expectations with them. I said, I will be here for you, but I am not on call. I am not a 911 crisis center. And I have to have strict boundaries so that I can be of service to you at your highest level. So when people ask me, are you afraid of being judged? The answer is 100% yes. But more than judgment and more than fear, I want to be courageous. I want to become the person that I know that I was born to be. And I can't do that if I'm living in a chronic state of fear. So I choose to co-create it. I choose to co-create with it. I choose to feel my fear and take action anyways. So thank you guys for listening today. I want to know. Every day I show up for you. So I want to know, what is your deepest fear? Send it to us at support@heatherchauvin.com or connect with me on Instagram @Mamas in Control.